Today we're going to be reading from the Transcendental Diaries, Volume 4. It's a continuation from 2 weeks ago. I think Srila Prabhupada gave class last week for his disappearance day. We heard from Srila Prabhupada. So before we begin, let's offer some prayers. We'll sing Jai Radha Madhava and then we'll go into it. Thank you. Sorry. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astota Sarashi Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astota Sarashi Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, ISKCON Guru Vrinda ki, Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki, Jagannath Puri Dham ki, Ganga Mai, Jamuna Mai ki, Bhakti Devi, Dasi Devi ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, before we begin our prayers to the Guru Parampara and to Srila Prabhupada, I'd like to just paint a picture before we start our prayers so that we can really meditate on this. So, if we think of Srila Prabhupada before he left to the west or took the Jaladuta to the west, Srila Prabhupada, and by a show of hands, anyone been to Vrindavan before? Vrindavan? So you can imagine this quaint little village, cows running around, and today's chapter, so Srila Prabhupada, he resided in Vrindavan. He took his sannyas and he used to write, translate the Bhagavad Gita. When you're in Vrindavan, it's a full meditation. But today's chapter is based in Iran, and I'd just like you to meditate how an individual, if you think of Srila Prabhupada, how does someone go from Vrindavan to Iran? So with this, let's pray for blessings that we may glorify Srila Prabhupada in this way. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Kinanjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sargajatam Sahagana Raghudatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakantitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. So today we're reading from Transcendental Diary by Harisori Das, Volume 4, Chapter 1, Tehran in Iran, August 9th, 1976. And this is part 2 of the chapter. There hasn't been much mail, but one letter Srila Prabhupada replied today was from Chatur Murti Das, a devotee living in New Mayapur, France, who is having Srila Prabhupada's books translated into Spanish and Portuguese. He has been preaching in Spain and expressed his desire to please His Divine Grace by his efforts. Srila Prabhupada was very happy to hear of his keen endeavor and surrender to his Guru. He wrote back, Please push on this movement in the Spanish and Portuguese languages with great enthusiasm, and certainly Krishna will bless you for taking so much trouble to preach his glories. A Vaishnava always feels himself incapable to repay his debt to a spiritual master. Therefore, he works very hard in order to try and repay that debt. He knows that without the mercy of the spiritual master, one cannot preach this Krishna consciousness, and therefore he always tries to act in such a way that he may please his guru. So here we see Srila Prabhupada really emphasizing this debt that we have to or this debt that we're incapable of repaying to our spiritual master. But with the empowerment, we are able to execute on his instructions, which we see this devotee trying to preach in Spanish and Portuguese. And I also wanted to highlight here that Srila Prabhupada is also, Srila Prabhupada has been given the instruction to preach in English by his spiritual master. So it's amazing to see how Srila Prabhupada is passing on this instruction to preach in other languages to his disciples as well. During his massage, which he took inside his room, because the sun was too hot, Srila Prabhupada heard the beautiful tones of various bhajans coming from the neighboring room. He asked me who was singing. Harikesh Maharaj told me that it was a record called Vrindavan, which was produced in France by our devotees, featuring the voices of Mani Banda Das and Kushalya Dasi. Srila Prabhupada liked it very much. With his eyes half closed as I massaged the mustard oil into his back, he recalled how he had first met Kushalya in Hawaii. She had been living on a beach, he said, and he had convinced her to become a devotee. He is always pleased to see his disciples, many of whom were hippies and dropouts, become useful in Krishna consciousness and live constructive, meaningful lives. So, if we think about Srila Prabhupada and how many devotees he's initiated, the fact that Srila Prabhupada is thinking of a disciple shows his personal relationship and connection with each one of them, and he remembers their background, the way they came to Krishna consciousness. So I felt that was extremely personal and special. And the last point in this paragraph, where Srila Prabhupada is pleased to see these hippies and dropouts become useful in Krishna consciousness and live meaningful lives. I think I can speak for myself, but if it wasn't for Krishna consciousness, I wouldn't have, that drive and purpose that I do now because of Srila Prabhupada. So I thought that was a really nice point to highlight. And the fact that these hippies and beach dwellers have become serious devotees also shows the revolution. And there's some connection with music here, where music was used, especially during those that period, to bring out a revolution, but on a material sense. But here, the chanting of the Hare Krishna has brought a revolution into their lives. So that was a really nice point that Srila Prabhupada ignited. The devotees here are not formally worshipping a deity, nor is there much of a morning program. Apart from chanting japa, but they have a small altar and pictures of Guru and Gauranga, which they normally keep upstairs, beyond the view of casual visitors. 16-inch marble deities of Radha and Krishna are here, but Atreya Rishi Prabhu has not yet allowed them to be worshipped. And remember, we are based in Iran currently in this chapter. This has apparently been a source of some debate amongst the devotees. Some thinking it Maya not to have a program of deity worship. Atreya Rishi, however, is aware of the potential danger. Muslims prohibit the worship of any specific personal form of God and consider deity worship a great offense. And since they frequently have Muslim guests, Atreya Rishi doesn't want to take any risk. On the other hand, Indian guests are reluctant to come because they cannot wholly take to a temple lacking deities. Atreya Rishi intends to purchase another building so that they can have two separate meeting places, thus resolving the dilemma. But still he feels they cannot sustain the strict standards of daily Radha Krishna worship because the lack of manpower. And I just want to point this out because we sit in a Radha Krishna temple, Shishi Radha Radhanath, and we know how many hundreds of devotees are required per week to worship the deities. So just painting the picture here. Nanda Rani came to see Srila Prabhupada this afternoon for advice on this and other matters concerning her service. Prabhupada agreed with Atreya Rishi's strategy and suggested that they worship Gauranitai deities because they can be worshipped simply by kirtan. Or if they want, he said, they can worship Shri Shri Radha Krishna with a reduced program of only 3 offerings and an arti a day, Mangal Arti, Raj Bhoga and Sundara, along with daily bathing and dressing of their lordships. He indicated that he had no objection to them beginning the deity worship in this house, but because Atreya Rishi feels another house is needed, Prabhupada is willing to go along with that. So the point from this chapter is that some devotees thought it was Maya not to worship deities, but Atreya Rishi was very sensitive to his surroundings, and what did Prabhupada do? He didn't rigidly insist that deities need to be worshipped. So this shows very practical and very a practical approach that the devotee has applied, which shows Srila Prabhupada's approval. So a point that I'd like to make here is that preaching isn't about imposing our practices. So in this community, Atreya Rishi didn't want to impose this deity worship onto individuals who weren't comfortable and see it as an offense, and wanted to gently bring them to Krishna consciousness. So it's all about making Krishna consciousness accessible while maintaining the essence. And Atreya Rishi showed the real intelligence here, which Srila Prabhupada appreciated. Nandarani also detailed her personal preaching program. She is teaching about 30 Indian children devotional songs and practices 2 days a week. Their parents are all business people and have little time to inculcate their offspring with their own culture. In fact, Nandarani said the children were just like Western children who knew nothing of Vedic lifestyle and spirituality. So the parents are very happy that Nandarani is giving them some education in kirtan, puja, and Krishna pastimes. They even pay a small tuition fee of $15 to $20. Now she has formed the children into a drama troupe and they meet each day to practice the birth of Lord Krishna. Its performance will be the highlight of the Janmashtami celebrations to be held on August 18th. They expect an audience of about 400 Indians to attend. So we are highlighting here that even though these individuals were from an Indian descent, because they were so busy, this culture, this Vedic culture, spiritual culture has been lost. So this just really highlights the importance of having a really good spiritual structure for kids, for them to understand, for them to experience. And And I just wanted to highlight, so in Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita, Srila Prabhupada's vision for Gurukul education was to protect children from materialistic contamination and give them Krishna consciousness from the beginning. And here we see Nandarani fulfilling that vision on a smaller scale. And the fact that parents were paying for this also shows that they had, or they have value in what Nandarani was offering. Srila Prabhupada also discussed some philosophy with her, pointing out that Muslims offer prayers. He said that unless God was a person, how could he accept them? If their prayers were for the glorification of Allah, that meant he must have glorious activities. Quoting the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Brahma Samhita, he said, "The Lord is tending cows. He is surrounded by so many goddesses of fortune, gopis. These things are described. So the Lord's activities, Lord's place, how he is surrounded by other devotees or servitors, how he is tending, these are prayers. So what is their prayer? Did you try to understand? What do they offer?" Nandarani said that they don't emphasize how he is great, just that he is great. Then there is proof of less intelligence, Srila Prabhupada said. God is great, very good, but how is he great? What is the conception of greatness? You accept me as spiritual master? Great. So you have got some conception of greatness. That you see in your spiritual master. Therefore you accept him. And if you have no conception of greatness, what is the meaning of he is great? They do not understand what is God, what is religion. Traditional, you can say superstition or some idea. Actually, no clear conception of religion, no idea in the world except that in this Krishna consciousness movement. All vague ideas. God is great. That's all. How is he great and worshipable? Who is God? Now, and our ideal is to love God. So if I don't know about God, if I don't know who is God, then what is the question of love? But faith is there, Nandarani pointed out. That is good, but that is called Bhakta Prakrita Smrta. That is not exactly on the transcendental platform. In the material platform, just appreciating some great power beyond our reach, that's all. Not clear idea. Therefore, they are disturbed when they think form. Form means limitation, they think. They do not know. Nobody knows, except in our Krishna consciousness movement. Why we have described about God in so many books, but they have this idea, very poor idea, that they are accepting God is great, that will help in future. That faith is elevating them, Nandarani asked. Someday, if they come in contact with a real devotee, they'll appreciate, just like you are coming. So they have to meet some devotee, and then they'll be benefited. With the present idea, there will be very slow progress, practically no progress, but even there is little progress, very slow, so unless they come in contact with a pure devotee. I suggested they could get that contact through Prabhupada's books. And Nandarani also said that if they distributed Prabhupada's books and prasadam, that was as good as meeting Prabhupada personally. No, personally also, you can do, Prabhupada said. If they come, you instruct them. But the prasadam and book distribution is very important line. If he is intelligent, by reading books will help him. In Europe and America, you have got intelligence. By reading books, they are coming to the sense. Prabhupada was pleased to hear Nandarani inform him about Srila Prabhupada was pleased to hear Nandarani inform him that because Iranians were not familiar with English, they were planning to get Sri Ishopanishad translated, as well as the essay, Who is Crazy? By show of hands, has anyone read or heard about Who is Crazy, the essay by Srila Prabhupada? So I did some research, because these classes are not only for me to deliver, but it's just really exciting to get to know Srila Prabhupada better. So this was originally published in 1966, which was later published in the Back to Godhead, volume 66. And this essay basically explains two classes of people, those who are sleeping and those who are awake. And those who are sleeping, Srila Prabhupada describes as, engages in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, where awake people understand that I'm not this body, I'm pure consciousness, eternal soul. It's a wonderful preaching essay for future reference. And in this essay, Srila Prabhupada describes three analogies. The camel chewing thorns. So someone who is totally convinced of material sense gratification thinks that, every time there's some material achievement, that he's making it in life. Srila Prabhupada compares this to camel chewing thorns. So when a camel chews thorns, he tastes, the camel, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai. So the camel tastes his own blood, and in this process thinks how delicious it is. So this is compared to someone who thinks material sense gratification is the goal of life. And then the second analogy Srila Prabhupada uses in this essay is the unbridled horse, which if you picture a horse that has no chariot driver or has no sense of control, is completely taking the passenger for a ride. So in that way, if we don't control our senses, it just shows that we can lose the purpose of life. So that's why sense control is the first principle, and that's why the 4 regulative principles have been set to control that horse. And then the third analogy Srila Prabhupada uses in this essay is the calm ocean. So this is compared to a spiritual person, and as much as many rivers may enter the ocean, because it's so deep, it can never be disturbed by, if you think of a river, I'm just thinking of the Ganges. If you watch the DVD of Mother Ganges, at a point is so full of energy, if I could put it that way. But if you think of when it meets the ocean, it's literally a drop in the ocean because of the vastness the ocean carries. So that Srila Prabhupada uses as an analogy that desires may come, but you may, the spiritual person is not disturbed. So yeah, that's the essence of the essay is that one who desires sense gratification will never be happy. And if you want peace, dovetail your desires with the Supreme Lord. Then you will see what real happiness is and can tell who is really crazy. So some night reading for some. Gradually, guests began to arrive for the evening darshan. Parivrajaka Swami brought a friend, Ali, who described himself as a Sufi dervish. He was an intelligent and well-spoken man, fluent in English and with a deep interest in spiritual life. So just to give you some background, a Sufi dervish is someone, a part of the Islamic faith, but extremely spiritual in their line, has some concept of meditation, but let's see how this conversation unfolds. Parivrajaka Maharaj told Prabhupada that he has translated a pamphlet for us on vegetarianism. Srila Prabhupada took that as a good lead, telling Ali that his mission was not to make people vegetarian, that would automatically come about. The purpose of the movement, he said, was to help people develop love for God. And unless people know God, he asked, where's the question of love? Stating that love means direct contact, he said that people talk of love of God, but because they do not know who or what is God, their talk has no practical value. He asked his guest for a definition of love, but Ali could give no clear understanding. When Parivrajak Acharya offered to give an explanation of bhakti, Srila Prabhupada told him, no, you bring another word, but explain it. What is love? In Vedic language, you get every definition. Love means two persons, both of them, beloved and the lover, is it not? The first condition of love means there must be two persons. What do you think? There must be two persons when there is question of love. Yes, it's reciprocation, I observed. Ah, Prabhupada said in agreement. Otherwise, where is love? What is this? Unless there are two persons, where is the question of love? Try to understand one step by step. So Srila Prabhupada is highlighting the development of the realization. You know, we have, sorry, I'm losing the word here. The effulgence is Brahman. So there's three levels of realization one can have. Brahman realization is that we are all energy, we are all one. The Paramatma realization is that that God is localized in everyone's heart, and Bhagavan is the supreme form of the Lord as the supreme personality of Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada is trying to explain this concept in a very practical manner, that one cannot love just by oneself. I mean, if we see Krishna unfolding all these beautiful pastimes, you know, and Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, but he still wants associates to engage with, to share this love with. So one cannot, love cannot be experienced by just one. As Srila Prabhupada says here, there has to be two. And also, I just wanted to highlight that Srila Prabhupada is really explaining this philosophy step by step, like a perfect teacher. He quoted from the Upadeshamrita, describing the different kinds of loving reciprocation delineated by Srila Rupa Goswami: giving something, taking something, feeding something, and to eat something, and to speak everything, no secrecy, and to know everything of the other person. When these things are transacted, then there is love. So if you want to love Krishna, God, then these things must be there. Otherwise, where's the question of love? To appreciate God is great. That is not love. That is simply appreciation. But when we actually give everything to God and take everything from Him, you will talk with Him of your mind. He talks with you. You give Him to eat, and whatever He eats, whatever He gives, you eat. In this way, there is question of love. Simply appreciation of the greatness of God, that is good. In God consciousness, but that is not love. The love stage is different. Ali asked, how can one understand God's love? And Prabhupada brought it to an even more practical platform. This is the process I've described. We have got deity of the Lord, we offer foodstuff prepared very nicely, and whatever left over is there, we eat. We dress him very nicely with flowers, with ornaments. We give him a nice place to sit down, to sleep. He also looks after our comfort in this way, exchange of love. A long and interesting conversation ensued, with Ali asking good questions about how one understands God and how one makes spiritual progress, and Srila Prabhupada supplying the kind of deep insights only a master practitioner could know. The main qualification required, Srila Prabhupada said, that one must be eager to know God more and more intimately. By practical action, the imperfect material senses become purified, and when they are fully spiritualized, then the reciprocal exchanges can take place. In order to take up practical action, one needs proper training, and therefore acceptance of his spiritual master is mandatory. He gave an example. Just like if you want to be an engineer, you must be trained under some engineer. Similarly, if you want to be trained up spiritually, you must accept a spiritual master. Tad vigyanatam sa gurum eva bhyagechet. Must, otherwise not possible. Training. So spiritual master trains with these books and explanation, practical demonstration. In this way, the student makes progress spiritually. And the wonderful thing about reading books like these on Srila Prabhupada is that we also get to learn from his example and how he handled specific situations. He elaborately described the difference between the body and the soul, repeatedly stressing the need to be practical. Simply talking of God, he told Ali, was not enough. It was like swimming. One can learn the theory, but when you get in the water, you actually have to do it. We are talking of God, but instead of loving God, we are loving this body. So that is not practical. That is simply waste of time. Shrama eva hi kevalam. If one does not become enthused to love God, then simply talking about God is a waste of time. I really like the swimming analogy. I'm sure for those who have kids or who have gone through swimming lessons as a child, the best way to start is just to do it. And I'm sure when we came to Krishna consciousness, like I remember coming to the Bhakti Yoga Society programs, and I would hear the Maha Mantra and I think, okay, great, these devotees are singing and I think they expect me to sing, but I'm just gonna but it's only when you give it a try, and as I am sure you can also attest to this, it's only when you give it a try do you experience the bliss of chanting the holy name of God. So in this way, Krishna consciousness is not just philosophy. It's not just something that we read in a book. It's something we practice not on a Sunday, not only in the morning, not at a specific time, not when we're turning our lamps to Yashoda Damodar. Literally every second of our day is practical application of Krishna consciousness. And this is seen in our attempt to chant our rounds attentively, to follow the regulative principles, and to also serve with enthusiasm. Because it's only once we try do we understand the bliss and the joy of engaging in Krishna consciousness. That is going on, so I'm just continuing on the chapter. That is going on all over the world. Somebody's Hindu, somebody's Christian, somebody's Mohammedan. They are going to the church, they're going to the mosque, they're going to the temple. Everything is going on. But when you ask whether you love God or dog, he'll say, I love dog. Practically, we see everyone is keeping a dog, very favorite pet. And in church, they all talk of God, but practically they love the dog, is it not? This is going on in the name of religion, that's all. Therefore, Bhagavata says it's simply waste of time. He gave another graphic example illustrating the mentality of those who approach God for material things such as a car, wife, house, or some money. As Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj would say, a big house, a BMW, and a colored, a widescreen TV, Om Jai Jagadish Hari or something. He gave another graphic example illustrating the mentality of those who approach God for material things, such as, sorry, I just read this, such as a car, wife, house, or some money. Just like a vulture, the vulture goes very, very high, 4 miles high, 5 miles. But this business is to find out where's a corpse. He raised his hand in the air, very highly elevated, but business is to find out a dead body. And as soon as he finds it, he brought his hand sweeping down. This is going on. Very religious, very regularly performing religious ceremonies, rituals. But the business is where is a corpse? Come on, here is some sense gratification. This is going on. If you are talking of God, then you must love God. That is progress. But there is no love of God. There is love of something else. So what is the use of talking about it? So here Srila Prabhupada is just explaining how by the one, may talk about their rituals and how highly elevated their practices are, but what is their goal? And I think it's also a good check-in for each one of us, when we're practicing our Krishna consciousness, like what is our goal in each service that we do, in each day? Are we looking for the corpse? Are we, highly elevating ourselves and then miss the mission completely? Or are we really taking the instruction of Srila Prabhupada to heart? But it also shows those who engage in karma kanda may speak of themselves of, highly elevated, but actually it's not really achieving much because it's just extending their karma and activities. So here the vulture is representing external show without internal transformation. So it's a really nice lesson for us to take from that. Ali touched on some of the Devish concepts and practices. He referred to what was called internal dialogue, and while asking Srila Prabhupada what its purpose was, he simultaneously gave his own definition. Internal dialogue, we talk to ourselves all the time. We can't be silent. You talked with whom? Prabhupada asked. There must be second person when you talk. You are one person, and another person must be there. Who is that other person with whom you talk? With the self, Ali said. Then you are lunatic, Prabhupada frankly told him. Just like a lunatic, he talks alone. Ali tried to clarify what he meant. No, this is silent talk, like the mind. You can't stop. But Srila Prabhupada understood the process more than he did. No, the idea is when you talk of talking, there must be two. So self, then you have to admit the self becomes two. Otherwise, there's no talking. This is good. That one is super self. Another is subordinate self. So when the subordinate self is able to talk with the super self, then he gets right. Then he gets right direction in his life. His life is very successful. Is this super self a spirit? Ali asked, intrigued. Yes, Srila Prabhupada told him, when you say self, that is spirit. Spirit, the supreme spirit and the subordinate spirit, the supreme being and the subordinate being. That is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. I just want to highlight how Srila Prabhupada called Ali a lunatic. But still, Ali, because of Srila Prabhupada's exchange with him, is still intrigued of what Srila Prabhupada is saying. So it really shows how we carry ourselves can really impact the other person. The point that's being made here is that meditation, which we can then also go a little deeper because we're in a devotee audience, is our japa. And this is also a lesson for myself, is we're not just chanting the holy name. There's two, like Srila Prabhupada is saying, the super self and the subordinate self. So when we engaged in this type of meditation, it's not just us in the process. And when Srila Prabhupada calls Ali a lunatic, I was thinking about a few times that I've tried to chant on an airplane alone. And, the concept of meditation, and a lot of religions have very silent meditation, but with the holy name, you also have to hear it in order for the reciprocation to happen. And I just think of myself looking like a mad person in front of someone, just talking to myself. But Srila Prabhupada really nicely lays it out that we're actually talking to the super self as well. So there's always two in this process. And I would like to also just highlight a very beautiful picture that's in our BBT printed books. I'm not sure if it's in Bhagavad Gita, but it is somewhere, where there's two birds sitting on a tree and one is eating the fruits. That bird is representing the jiva or the soul, the subordinate self, engaged in material activities, and the other bird is just witnessing, and that bird represents the super soul or Krishna. So in our process of Krishna consciousness, through the many lifetimes that we've gone through, these two birds have gone through the journey together. So it's always really important to understand that Krishna is always with us, no matter which birth we've taken in the past. So there's a nice verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 10. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. When in a sincere, the super soul will guides from within. So this verse just really, I just paraphrased that verse, but basically represents how Krishna is the super soul residing in our heart. Oh, and Bhagavad Gita 15:15, where Krishna says that I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. I just want to continue with the chapter. I already had the Gita in hand and quickly turned the pages to verse 15:15, as Prabhupada asked. You find this verse, Sarvasya Chaham Hirdi Sanivisto. On his indication, I read out the verse in purport, and Prabhupada added that Veda meant the book of knowledge. So any book of knowledge which gives you direction how to understand God, how to love Him, that is perfect. Ali listened attentively, appreciating what he heard. At the end he said, but this knowledge cannot be attained unless we are aware of the spiritual. Yes, Prabhupada said, any knowledge you have to acquire either from the super soul within yourself or his representative outside, you have to learn it. Why have we chosen this? Ali said, meaning the external form of religion. This seems so irrelevant. Srila Prabhupada assured him that even the rituals, if carried out for the purpose of attaining actual love of God, were good. They are accepting there is God. That is much good. But when he makes further progress, that there is good. What kind of person he is, what is his business, then you make further progress. So for the neophyte, this ritualistic formula is good. But he must make further progress. Instead of godlessness, these processes are better. Let him go to the mosque. Let him go to the temple. Let him go to the church. At least, let him maintain the idea of God. That is ritualistic. Then there is further progress. One must be interested. But people are losing interest even in the neophyte stage. They are becoming godless. that is going on. So that is very dangerous. Instead of becoming godless, if someone approaches God, it doesn't matter in some way, some ritual. It is better than this atheistic class of men. At least they are accepting God, and if they offer prayer sincerely, God is there within the heart. He'll gradually reveal. The more you become purified, the more He reveals. Then He'll talk with you. So everything depends on the sincerity and seriousness. So if we take these ritualistic ceremonies, now I've gone to church or mosque, I have gone to temple, finish. Now let me do whatever I like, then that is a waste of time. Shrama eva hi kevalam. Their discussion had gone on for almost 2 hours. Bringing it to a close, Srila Prabhupada stressed the common platform of spiritual attainment. So simply, try to understand God, and that is possible simply by chanting the holy name of God. Very easy. It doesn't matter either you are Iranian or Indian, chant the holy name of God. I think there should not be any objection for this movement. What do you think? We are simply pleading, my dear sir, please chant the holy name of God. Who will have any objection? Nobody will have any. Do it. There is no confusion. If you are confused, chant the holy name of God. You'll be out of confusion. Tell them like that. Everyone should join with us and preach this cult. This is not a cult. This is a science. That you must chant the holy name of God. That's all. Just after 9 p.m., the conversation was winding down when Atreya Rishi walked in. He was jubilant. He informed Prabhupada after a year of fruitless searching, he had just successfully negotiated the purchase of a new building. He invited Prabhupada to inspect it. It is both a nice location and a nice small house. We can also get a bigger one nearby, and a bigger one. We can take the whole city. So this just shows the chasing the rhino spirit that Srila Prabhupada's disciples have. Prabhupada laughed at this enthusiasm and agreed to visit. Atreya Rishi suggested they wait until Thursday, 2 days hence, in order to avoid the heavy congestion of city traffic. Just before resting this evening, Srila Prabhupada ate some puffed rice prepared by Nandarani. He likes his puffed rice lightly fried in a little ghee with salt and pepper added. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So a few takeaways that we can take from this chapter is to serve with a sense of indebtedness to Guru, to our Guru and to Srila Prabhupada, to preach with intelligence, so adapt to the time, place, and circumstance. Love must be practical, and there must always be two, so we should never think that we can be alone in this journey. And then get in the water and swim, so practice, don't just stay in the philosophical realm, apply the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and then chant the holy name, as this is, as Srila Prabhupada, he even told Ali that, we are not preaching vegetarianism, you simply just start by chanting the holy name. If you're a little confused, chant the holy name. So let's and this is also for myself, to recommit ourselves to the holy name and to go deeper in this practice, and to also learn by Srila Prabhupada's example. Would anyone like to share any comments that you'd like to add? Any special Prabhupada pastime you've heard recently that can inspire us? No? Okay. So let us chant the holy name, share it with others, and imbibe Srila Prabhupada's example. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.